If you look at the entirety of professional services to veterans with PTSD, the entire orientation out there is basically toward the remediation of symptoms, getting those people symptom-free. Then their job is done, then they get to go home. We have a more severe difficulty here. Is the person at that point the kind of guy who could walk in here and be hired? The point is that a lot of these people, even when they've become symptom-free, may not have their full set of competences which they had when they originally went off to war.
How does neurofeedback work? We use simple sensors that go on the scalp, and that records the EEG. We are reflecting back to you what your brain is doing. What we can see with the electrical activity in the brain, we can see how awake the brain is. All of a sudden, you can learn to stay in an optimal zone of function.
Several years ago, we launched this nonprofit organization, Homecoming for Veterans. We launched pilot programs and several organizations on several VA campuses and in military bases to really show what we could do with neurofeedback and with people who are dealing with PTSD. And we've been really, really impressed at how the military bases have taken this under their wing, and we've seen some of the most, impressive work being done with active duty service members who, are in such immediate need as they come back, and often before they're redeployed.
I was skeptical at first, and after trying it for a few sessions, I feel like I'm less irritable, less angry. Out of 10 sessions, I think I went from being a zombie to being pretty close to normal.
So if you're PTSD, you have been carefully not remembering your trauma because it would be too re-traumatizing. So your brain is protecting you from that. But it's not forever. People can recover good function. Welcome, Katie. We're going to do a couple things today. We're going to start with the conversation so I can learn about symptoms, history, that sort of thing. Yeah. And then we'll do a session. You actually get to experience the training. So let's start with sleep. Do you have any difficulties falling asleep or staying asleep?
I have vivid dreams occasionally. I have sort of anxiety. I'm a very nervous flyer. I had an eating disorder. I pull my hair. I smoke. Extremely emotionally volatile. I'm a worrier. I get frustrated.
That gives us what we need to start with. So, Katie, we're going to start by putting these 3 little electrodes on your scalp with some paste. It's typical for the brain waves to just look small and busy like this. Yeah. Here, grit your teeth together. Bite down. Okay, see that, all that fast stuff there? That's your muscles. So you can just sort of feel this. The brain is moving through space here, and it can feel the shifts. It knows that it's responsible for that. It's in a very direct way. This is allowing the brain to look in the mirror and see its own activity, and that is interesting to the brain.
Now, if you're treating someone with post-traumatic stress, what kind of changes would you tend to see in them coming in for their 10th or 15th or 20th session?
It doesn't take very many sessions to see a very significant impact, very significant reduction in flashbacks and nightmares and suicidal thoughts and anger and all of that kind of stuff.
Most heartwarming stories have been from Vietnam veterans who've have been dealing with just horrendous things in their lives for as many as 40 years.
Vietnam in 70 and 71. They pulled me off the Cambodian border. I had 3 days to check out, and then they flew me to Tan Son Nhut, and in 54 hours I was on the street. So I just stayed drunk for 40 years. Now, I didn't notice anything till my 3rd session. At first I thought it was nuts, to watch something move through a tube, but then you'd see the thing stop and spin and sputter, and you knew your brain was not functioning that well. Some crying the next day and a few things, and it brought up a lot of emotion, and I slowed my drinking down a lot, but I'm saying that even if it was something that helped a little bit with PTSD, it would be good.
The major limitation in the field is that there really are not good placebo-controlled or sham-controlled studies that prove that EEG neurofeedback works for the treatment of psychiatric illnesses.
More people are going ahead and saying, I want to try this, and not waiting for some authority figure like their MD or somebody to say it's okay for them to try.
We don't need a diagnosis of PTSD to start doing neurofeedback and really start bringing some relief to some of these guys who've really been, you know, going through such a difficult place.
One of the biggest problems that we have in studying things like depression, anxiety, ADHD, or even PTSD is that there is a pretty robust placebo response for these conditions.
We know the placebo is powerful, but what is it doing? Clearly, there are ways for the brain to learn to function, recover from brain injury, for example, quite on its own. We're simply going on to say, okay, but we can actually also bring that about by active training. We can help the brain find better function by active training. You don't simply have to leave it to nature.